Public relations as an industry wouldn't work very well if everyone was taught from childhood that if you saw someone coming that everyone was speaking well about, run. It would probably be more honest, however, because the reason public relations functions the way it does can be seen in the extreme example of Edgar Snyder's grip on my name in Pennsylvania. Let's talk about what really happened just for one very small second. I was hit from behind by armed men who had been taking an interest in me because they were bribed by the government of Milton Schaap and those who surrounded him, like the Todd family, the Wattenmakers, and members of the University of Pittsburgh Society working with Snyder. And they began mailing me letters. The letters were the public relations department for the British Empire and Tel Aviv. They were signed Gail Burston. And what they're doing today, with the help of the NAACP, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Hakeem Jeffers, and the usual assortment of riffraff on the margins of podcasting, is auctioning off the last narrative about the United States of America. The last narrative about the United States of America is a pretty darn good yarn. It tells the story of a deaf kid who was a runny-nosed baseball fan who could have saved John Lennon. McCartney vowed that there would never be a penny made off of the story of his dead partner because his dead partner led the movement that was targeted by the AIDS non-event. See, they can't admit that they knew what that meant because then they'd be found out for helping the people who did it. So to make sure that nobody really questions what happened, they say, oh, you're exploiting us for a penny. And it's like a push me, pull you. It's like the story of the two Zacks in Dr. Seuss who come nose to nose and refuse to move. And that's what they get, where that's the auctions department of the last story. Now, the reason why public relations has turned out the way it has is because no matter what you do with the Texas school book, once it gets around what it contains, which is the abomination of America cheering the murder of JFK, justifying the election of the person behind the murder of JFK, and coming up with an abortion parable from Brothers Grimm to justify atomic revenge on the United States, World War III, and the AIDS attack. You know, the mania of suicidal mass fascism and mass suicide that's going on in the name of Peter Gabriel and Paul McCartney's celebrity circus. Thou shalt not get Taylor confused with Miley Cyrus. Thou shalt not bring the Rolling Stones to Detroit without checking with Motown. And the public relations department, what Edgar Snyder does is he works with Yoko Ono and Peter Gabriel at the bars. When I give the names of the people who tortured me, they go, hey, queerball snitched on you. And they whip up and Tune shows up at my door with these guys. They say, we want to tell it to our face, queerball. And that's the way. So that's the story behind. And now the reason why they don't like me is because I'm telling the truth about America's statement against itself. The way the Israels attacked me, the reason Snyder attacked me was because I was from a pilgrim name. My father had been a World War II distinguished citizen, service lieutenant, in the Navy. They called it the too good principle. They began angling at me in hate and envy and laughing that they dragged me through glass and plied me with stories that they would allow me to tell. Like hitching to St. Louis to hear Robert Fripp play. That was a story that they all allowed me to tell. And of course, they demanded everything that I owned. They disenfranchised me, they dispossessed me. And of course, the Native Americans said, well, that was justified because America doesn't exist. Sotheby said it was justified because Yoko Ono really hates him. The NAACP says it was justified because I just think I'm special because I'm white. This is UW dialectical. And this whole song and dance circle, it's like the new Confederate states. They're including what they consider to be the celebrities who do business the way they prefer to do business. And anybody who blows the whistle on them is just going to blow themselves hoarse. And they do things they couldn't care less that they don't have the right to do. They couldn't care less, because what they do is they dare you to tell, and then while you tell, they say, it would be like this. Somebody comes into the room, holds a gun to my head like this, right? I'm going to pull a trigger. Go try to get help. So I call next door. He's giving me 2 hours. Could you please come over here and stop him? And I call the police. Would you please come over here and stop him? And he sits there and waits for 2 hours, and nobody shows up. Public relations is that much of an albatross in the United States. The fact that you tried to tell the truth about what these people are doing is good enough reason to cut you out of the program. To kill a mockingbird, all you have to do is have it come forward with evidence of being tortured. And it's like there's no whodunit. Nosferatu who puts who at the end of his name. He tags on the back of my dead father's obituary who done it, right? But there's no who done it about it. You can see perfectly well who just slaughtered tens of thousands of innocent children. And nobody moved. Maybe that's why Edgar Snyder did it. He said these people are no different from Nazi Germany. Watch what I'll get them to do. And he smiled as the puppets dance. And they get out there. And public relations doesn't like it when people can see to the root of the affair. I'll give you an example of this, okay? The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reported. Now, Josh Angress worked at this place. It was by Jenny Rubens in King's Estate. They reported that social workers at a little gathering facility for children with Down syndrome were using cattle prods on the children. They reported this. I said, that's the street where I was kidnapped, tortured, and gassed to them. And I drew a cartoon that I sent to Tim Mayonnaise with somebody threatening me, telling me to sniff it, queerbait. And Tim Mayonnaise made this into a practical joke. He locked me from the house from the inside and had this guy come in. And the only way I was going to get out is if I played public relations. Oh, look who's here. They locked the house from the inside. And Scorsese says, well, we'll use what Creary said for the Goodfellas movie and set him up in The Last Temptation because I'm a symbol of America and the fascists want to exterminate us. Public relations says no. The whole gang of people who monitor my videos are working together with Paul McCartney on this secret espionage project. They all know perfectly well I've been tortured, molested, and robbed. threatened, terrorized, abused, molested, defamed, frightened, brain damage, given Parkinson's, deafened. I mean, and they just look for ways to say, "So what?" That's what their whole game is, to say, "So what?" So what? He has used to have his manhood, and people go, "Oh, I'm shocked to find the deaf boy used to have his manhood." It's very simple for them to do that. They send the black kids in. They say, "Well, he's talkative. He doesn't listen to people, so just go in and humor him." And they get away with grotesque things. They're bombing children's schools in Iran and lying to the American people about the whole thing. And all they can think of doing is being as shifty as they know how. That's all they can think of doing. They sit there in think tanks. How can we be shifty? How can we be shifty constantly? That's all they think about. Day in, day out, day after day, night after night. How can we be shifty?